Hello, welcome back. President Biden has defended what he says is a difficult decision to provide cluster bombs to Ukraine. The Pentagon claimed the speed that artillery is being used means that cluster munitions are essential. Today marks the 500th day of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and fierce fighting is continuing. Joining us now is the advisor to Ukraine's Minister of Defence, Yuriy Sak, who's in western Ukraine. Good to see you on the programme. It is a dangerous move, isn't it, sending in these cluster bombs?
It is an important move, Nick. It is a timely move because we are standing up against an enemy. Essentially, one thing that is not often mentioned is that Russia has been using cluster munitions from day one of this aggressive, unprovoked war against Ukraine. They've been using cluster munitions actually against civilian cities. They've been pounding the second largest city of Kharkiv with the cluster munitions in February and March of 2022. Now, we need these types of weapons as well as other types of weapons in order for just to achieve one single sole purpose, which is to liberate our land. We are not like Russians. We are not war criminals. We're not rapists and looters, right? We will be using these weapons very responsibly, and we have proven and shown to our allies time and again that we are responsible when it comes to the use of these weapons that we receive from our allies on the battlefield. And our Minister of Defense has given written assurances that certain principles will be applied. You know, we have a right to self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter, but in exercising that right, we will always commit ourselves to abiding by the international norms of war and humanitarian laws.
That said, policies may apply, but you can't rule out civilian casualties, so you'll just be adding to the problem, won't you?
Look, this is a war, and if we talk about civilian casualties, just last night in the city of Liman, we now have 8 confirmed because a Russian Grad system shelled that city, killing 8 people. 2 nights before that, a Russian caliber ballistic missile, cruise missile, hit 3 Russian cruise missiles hit the central part of Lviv, which is just a couple of kilometers away from Poland, right? And killing 10 people there. So this is a war, and we are dealing with an enemy who's killing our civilians every day. But like I said, we will use, and this is clearly written in the position of the Minister of Defense of Ukraine, these cluster munitions will not be used in urbanized territories. They will be used only on the battlefield to allow the Ukrainian army to break through the defense lines of the enemy, the hundreds of kilometers of trenches, military personnel and equipment of the enemy.
You clearly think it is worth the risk. I wonder if you attach a percentage of failures of these munitions to come to your decision to accept them.
I will repeat, we have shown time and again that we abide by the humanitarian norms, and we conduct our military and we plan our military operations in such a way that we do not expose civilian population to risks, because these are our people. Let's not forget that on the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, these are Ukrainians. We have a duty to protect them. So the only target, and military operations will be planned very, very meticulously. So the only target will be the enemy personnel, equipment, and army. So civilians will be out of this.
They leave a legacy, don't they? So is Ukraine committed to clearing up, if you like, afterwards?
Absolutely. Our Minister of Defense, Alexei Reznikov, made it very clear today in his statement that these zones, first of all, we will be recording every time these weapons will be used, and we will be recording the local zones where they will be used. And after our victory, these zones will be prioritized when it comes to the national demining efforts. So we understand that, you know, these munitions sometimes leave ordnance that does not explode. This is why these areas where they will be used will be prioritized when it comes to demining.
OK, let's talk about the fact that you need cluster bombs in the first place. Is it a sign that the counter-offensive is stalling, not going as well as you expected?
As we have said, and as our allies have seen, the Russian enemy, the aggressors, they've had a long time to prepare for our offensive operations. They've had months to dig in, to build very deeply entrenched and strongly fortified defense lines. Now, all military experts, without exception, admit that these defense lines, they are unprecedented in the human history. So to break through these defense lines, we knew this was not going to be easy, yet nevertheless, our army is still moving forward in different parts of the front line. Sometimes it's a kilometer, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. But for example, in around a city such as Bakhmut, the Ukrainian army is achieving progress on a daily basis. And according to our general staff, Russians are now almost trapped in the city of Bakhmut. The same goes for the southern front lines, right? There are certain areas in that front line where Ukrainian army is achieving progress on a daily basis. So it's a very difficult warfare, and we never expected this going to be easy. And we hope that the new weapon system, what we call the liberation weapons, when we receive them, they will make that progress faster. But we are on track, and we are on our mission to liberate our land entirely and reinstate.
But not as much progress as you would have liked. So I think that's fair to say, is it not?
Nick, listen, we would have liked this war to have ended yesterday, right? Because this is the war which kills our people, destroys our cities. So we are probably the most interested nation to end this war as soon as possible. But we have a very high regard, unlike the Russians. We have a high regard for the lives of our troops, for the lives of our soldiers. This is why we plan our military operations, you know, taking the life of our personnel as a priority. So we are not going to rush into any military operation if it entails exposing our troops to high risks. We are not going to use, like Russians do, our soldiers as cannon fodder just to achieve some spectacular results or that to satisfy somebody's curiosity. This is serious business, and we take the life of our personnel, I will repeat, very seriously. This is why we go steadily. The progress is very obvious, and we will continue.
Dr. Sak, always good to have you on the programme. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nick.
Right, back home, let's have a look at the weather.